Same pattern, Tiki Barber and Brian Dawkins levels it.
That ball went out of here off the top of the wall. Chipper Jones just won the ball game.
We got 30 minutes for the rest of our life. 30 minutes.
Electrifies the crowd and is the beginning of a new order here in the NBA.
Hey, time for another edition of our Hometown Heroes podcast, and we got a special guest today, and Dan Hicken here. This is brought to you by Lockett Law, Know Before You Blow. We appreciate those guys as well. But we got Ryan Murphy, and we've talked to so many great Jacksonville athletes in so many different sports, but the main sports, right? We got football, and we got basketball, and we got baseball. Well, we got a very special guest today in Ryan Murphy, and I want to bring him in right now. Ryan, how are you, by the way?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Dan.
I want to talk about growing up in Jacksonville, but first I have to ask you this question. And this is a question that I'm pumping you up a little bit here. But what's it like to be the very best in the world all time at something?
Well, it's not really something that crosses my mind too much. I feel like that's something that when I'm old, when I'm retired, when I'm sitting on a beach, I sit there and I appreciate it a little bit more. But
yes.
But for right now, I've got more things I'm trying to accomplish, right? So I don't think too much about it.
That's pretty good. Ryan Murphy, for those who don't know, is the world record holder, which means he's the fastest in the world all time in the 100-meter backstroke. He is a 3-time gold medalist. I believe that's correct. Is that correct, Ryan?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has 3 gold medals, and he'll be going for more in Tokyo. He qualified in the 100-meter and the 200-meter, and I assume you'll be swimming. Or I don't know. How did the relays work? Are you in the relay automatically, or how does that work? Do you have to have the fastest time? How's that deal go?
Yeah, so I should be on the men's medley relay,
right.
And then there's a new event this year. It's a mixed medley relay.
Oh.
So you're allowed to take 2 guys and 2 girls. You can put them at whatever position. And so I may be on that one, but that one, there's so much strategy involved.
Yeah.
So that one is, it's a little bit more murky for me to say right now.
We'll let the coaches figure that one out. Let's go back to your youth in Jacksonville, FLA, Ryan Murphy. You grew up here. Listen, you were part of a great family, sports, big part of your guys' lives. But where does the pool become involved? Where does Ryan Murphy dive into the pool and mom or dad or somebody go, wait a minute, whoa, he's a pretty good little swimmer. How did that come about?
Yeah, so we moved actually from Chicago down to Jacksonville when I was 6 months old.
Right.
And so right when we got down to Jacksonville, my parents loved that there was a community pool where they had 3 young little kids. I was the youngest of the 3. And so they always brought us to the pool because they thought that was a good way to entertain us and to cool down from the summer heat.
Okay.
So when I turned 4, I joined the summer league swim team. I was just kind of following my brother and sister.
Right.
And I hated it.
Okay.
Like I hated it. Like
yeah.
I didn't like to practice. I really enjoyed going to the meets and competing, but the practice was not my shtick at that point. Eventually, I kind of learned that you have to practice in order to get better. So I started to I guess kind of not enjoy the practices, but I did the practices because I wanted to get good.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it was after my 7-year-old summer, the coaches called my parents and they're like, Ryan, Patrick, and Shannon, all of them have a great talent for the water. We would recommend that you guys put them in year-round swimming. And so we did that, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah. So you're the kid who, you're swimming pretty well early on. And by the way, that was at Queens Harbor, right? When you were.
That was at Queens Harbor. Yeah.
So he's over in Queens Harbor. So you go over to. I assume you went over to Bowles at that point for year-round swimming. Or not yet?
So I was swimming at North Florida Swimming. So that was the same coaches that were doing the summer league program.
Okay.
So I swam there all the way until I was 11.
Yeah.
I did my 7th grade year. I went to Episcopal, and then my 8th grade year is when I went to bowls.
Okay, so tell me this: by the time you went to bowls, in your bedroom, Ryan Murphy, how many swimming ribbons, trophies, etc., were dotting that room?
Oh God! I mean, too many, too many. Yeah, I mean, at that point, we had already met. We did that little feature when I was like 10.
Yes.
So I'd already met you at that point. Yeah. I saw some good success pretty young.
Yes.
And, I think that's a blessing and a curse. Like, there's definitely pressure that comes with that, but it's also nice to get validation that you're good at something at a young age.
So where did the work ethic come from? Because swimming is a tough sport on kids too. It's a grind. It's morning, afternoon. It's getting in the yards, the meters, whatever you want to call it. Where did that part of it come for you? And when you said you realized that you got to practice to get better, so obviously that was a part of it. But where did that willingness to, I really don't want to get up at 4:30 or 5 a.m. or whatever time your morning workouts were. Where did that come from, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, my parents had me in all kinds of sports growing up. So I was always a really active kid, and I was really ridiculously competitive. Like I was kind of the kid that would throw a tantrum like every time my team lost, no matter what sport it was.
Okay.
So I really enjoyed competing. I really enjoyed trying to win. And I kind of just took that mentality and brought it to practice every day. Like it was hard for me to kind of turn on and off the competitiveness. So I was competitive in the classroom. I was competitive at practice. And really, I think that's kind of what led me to success. I've always been on teams where there was some solid competition. I mean, I was just lucky that Bulls was in the backyard basically in Jacksonville, and they've always got a bunch of studs on the team. So I always had someone to race. I always had someone to try to beat every single day, and then at the end of the year, it seemed to turn out pretty well.
We're visiting with Ryan Murphy. This is our Hometown Hero podcast brought to you by Lockett Law. Know before you blow. And obviously we knew, I had started hearing about you at a young age and what a great swimmer you were. So that led into the whole Tony Baselli challenge. We won't relive that because we've done it many times and it's so much fun. But Ryan raced Big Bo at bowls. How old were you, Ryan, when you did that?
I think I was in 8th grade for that one.
Yeah, I think so. And Tony, I was telling Tony on the radio one morning about this young man, Ryan Murphy. I said, this kid is, earmarked for greatness and he's terrific. So, I could beat him. I said, no, you can't. Yeah, I could beat him. And, of course, somebody at Bowls heard. And so next thing we know, we're driving down to Bowls and Ryan and Big Bo are racing. And it was classic as Ryan waxed Tony. And it was really one of the fun moments for me, Ryan. I appreciate that because you didn't let me down. But when did they start telling you, okay, so they said to you, they told your folks, listen, the family, these kids are good in the water. But when was it even more than that? When was it like the Olympics? When was the first time you heard the word Olympics?
Yeah, so I always watched the Olympics growing up. I was always someone that loved watching sports as well. Like, I'm a huge Jaguars fan.
Right.
I like watching the NBA. The Olympics were always on every 4 years in our household. So I honestly have some memories of watching the 2000 Olympics, but it was just something that was cool to watch. 2004, it was like, all right, I understand the sport a little bit more. 2008, it's like, all right, at that point, I'd given up other sports. It's like I was really looking up to these people at that point. And then I went to Olympic trials in 2012. So in 2012, I went to Olympic trials, and I was still like kind of a scrawny 16-year-old kid.
Right.
And I showed up, and I got 4th in the 200 back and 6th in the 100 back there, and top 2 make it. So coming off of that, I was like, all right, like I think I'm pretty good at this. And these next 4 years, I really want to do everything I can to try to make the 2016 Olympic team. And that's really what I kind of focused on right after the 2012 Olympic trials.
So Ryan goes to Cal. He could have went to any swimming program in the country, obviously, well sought after. He would be what we call in football a 5-star, okay? And he goes to Cal. And while he's at Cal, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Ryan, but I believe you won the 100 and 200 in your event all 4 years at the NCAA championships, if I'm not mistaken. And that's historical. Like, you're one of only 3 or 4 men to ever accomplish that in the 100 and 200 of a particular event. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm bragging on you, so you don't have to, but that's fairly incredible. So we're all set to go to the Olympic Games again last year, or at least planning on it. We never got there. Obviously, what was that year like, and how tough was it for you and some of your fellow swimmers who are friends of yours?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely challenging once that decision kind of came down in March of last year, because we, like, for as hard as we work in non-Olympic years, in Olympic years, it's literally it's consuming your thoughts basically 24/7.
Right.
I mean, every decision I make is related to swimming performance, and so for that opportunity to at first get taken away and then get rescheduled, that was a bit challenging, but at the end of the day, it's like, all right, what can we really do about it? Like, that decision's made. So what I did is I took a couple weeks off out of the pool, then got back into it, and it's like, all right, we've got 14 or 15 months until the 2021 Olympics now, right. And those sound like they're going on. So I've got to do everything I can to be prepped for those Olympics.
Take me through a little bit of what you're doing right now to prepare. Like, are we in full workout, lots of yards, lots of sprint? What are we working on right now? Or when do we begin to taper off and kind of the hay's in the barn, so to speak? Where are we right now in our workouts as we prepare for our events in Tokyo?
Yeah, so I mean, I really think the hardest training is probably behind us.
Okay.
We came back from Olympic trials on Sunday. So this week is really just kind of building up the volume again. So doing a decent amount of yards, doing a decent amount of sprinting. Next week will probably be a pretty tough week. And then after that, it's come down again, taper, and try to be really fast in Tokyo.
How much of swimming, and obviously you're not just a great swimmer, you're a real smart young man. You've been very successful. Obviously, you went to Cal. How much of the technical side of swimming do you get into? Are there analytics in swimming? I'm guessing here, you probably know every single nuance of the backstroke.
Yeah, totally. And I think like every sport, you're trying to kind of mesh like an art and a science.
Right.
Like I know all the science of like, all right, like what sort of like arm angle I should be hitting, like how big my kick amplitude should be, all that sort of like technical stuff.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's like, if you could be doing all of that scientific stuff right, but if it's not personally feeling right for you in the water, then you're probably not going to go very fast. So I tend to try to go off of feeling first.
Okay.
And then if the feeling goes a little bit off, then that's when I'll really dive into the race video and be like, all right, well, this is probably why it's feeling a little bit off. And then I'll make that adjustment, and typically it'll feel pretty good at that point. How
was the feeling at the trials, and talk about your swims there?
Yeah, so I mean, I think trials was good. Trials is always tough because there's so much pressure there. So it was honestly probably the most nervous I was before a race in like 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So going into that 100 back, I was like I was wearing like the little AirPod headphones, and like I was trying to put them back in the case, and my hands were shaking. So it was like hard to actually put the AirPods back into the case. Like, that's how nervous I was. So that was good to deal with. In terms of like the swims themselves, like I think I've got a little bit of room. Like we came down, we rested for Olympic trials to make sure we made the team. But I definitely feel like my legs definitely have some more room to rest. Like, they're definitely not. They weren't like 100% fresh there. So I'm excited. I can't make any predictions of like how much faster I'm gonna go. But I think I've definitely got some room in the tank to go a little bit faster.
Well, we're also very proud of you. Let's wrap up with this, and we're with Ryan Murphy, United States Olympic swimmer, world record holder in the 100 meters, and decorated swimmer of one of the most decorated swimmers that we know. Ryan, as you head to Tokyo, I know you're focused on one thing and one thing only, and that's, obviously doing the very best you can and seeing how the chips fall, winning gold medals, et cetera. But what do you have plans beyond that? Have you thought about that? Where are you with what happens after the Olympics?
Yeah, so right now I'm just making sure that I remember to pack my Trevor Lawrence jersey
baby.
to Tokyo.
Yep.
But after that, like I do plan to keep on swimming. I feel like physically, like I've knock on wood, I've never had a major injury. So
right.
My shoulders are good.
Good.
My joints are all good. So that's great. I still love it. Like I still love waking up. I really have a passion for the sport.
Mm-hmm.
And I still feel like I still feel like I could be really good and be really competitive. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to give that up just yet. At the same time, there's always a balance between like my athletic goals and then career goals outside of swimming. So that's something that I'm always trying to keep an eye on, just making sure that I'm not swimming too long that like my career goals are kind of I won't have a chance to go after those. But right now I'm loving swimming and I think it's been really good for me.
I want to see you in September at a Jags game with a couple 3 medals around your neck and celebrate with you. But congratulations on everything. You're a terrific young man from a terrific family, and we're very proud of you here in Jacksonville, Ryan.
Awesome. Really appreciate the time. This was great.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Good luck.
All right. Thank you.
All right.